All right.
Hi guys, welcome to another episode of the Real Football Talk Show. I'm your host Hassan. Today I have with me Famik and Adi. We'll be discussing the Arsenal versus Manchester City game. Adi, Famik, what was your take on the first goal that Arsenal conceded straight away and the slow start they made?
Uh, it's a typical Arsenal start against teams recently. But I think it was more a case to do with the fact that three of Arsenal's full-back line didn't play in the previous game, nor have they been playing consistently. Rob Holding hasn't played for 2-3 games. Mari hasn't been for a while, and Tierney's just come back from injury. So it's come down Tierney's side. Pablo Mari's somewhere in the box, and Rob Holding is out jumped by the smallest man in the pitch. 1-0.
I mean, Arteta kind of alluded to it after the game. He was saying there was tactically something wrong in terms of the goal. I mean, what was wrong with it?
With the goal?
Or the way they considered it, because they didn't follow the instruction was set by Arteta.
I can't see any instruction that needs to be set apart from win the ball in the box. Rob Holding, it's like the goal that he conceded against Aston Villa. He's marking space when there is a man free. Mark the man, the goal is not conceded. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, I mean, it's a big problem with Holding that he keeps running to try and block a shot at goal instead of actually dealing with it in the first instance. I mean, why would you want to take a potluck and try and block a shot on the goal line rather than actually try and attack the ball and clear it? So there's a technical issue with Holding that he does regularly there. But I think what Arteta's alluding to is possibly the way in which is they started off very passive, they sat off, they went quite deep. So there was no pressure on the City players. And, you know, this is the first 5 minutes of the game and he's able to ping it all the way to Mahrez. Obviously, you could question Tierney showing Mahrez on the inside and not on the outside, which he did for the rest of the game, but you're one down.
I feel like at the start of the game, Tierney's looked behind him and he's seen only Raheem Sterling in the box. So realistically, if Mahrez crosses it, Arsenal should win that. So I don't think he was too concerned about Mahrez crossing it there. But he crossed it, Raheem Sterling was up. First 2 minutes of the game as usual, that's the only goal.
But I think in terms of Arteta having issues technically with the way they set up, I think those might be or could be the points that you'd say. You know,
but that's what I was saying in terms of the players he chose to start. El Neni hasn't played in a while. Xhaka's not a presser. That's two centre midfielders who don't really press. So obviously there's going to be space in the midfield from there. Then you've got.
Would you have gone with Ceballos instead?
Say that again?
Would you have gone with Ceballos instead?
Based off of his last game in the Premier League, yeah. What I would have done is I would have started a team that started against Leeds and I would have picked a different team for the Champions League game.
Europe League game, you mean?
No, I'm saying Champions League because I'm putting it out there. Arsenal going to be in the Champions League soon.
No, I think he had to rotate because he played quite a strong lineup in the Europa League in the hope of getting a big lead like some of the other clubs and then being able to rest players. And because he hasn't been able to do that, that's ultimately been a determining factor in his squad selection for the City game.
Yeah.
But I was surprised he kept Xhaka, and because it would have been really interesting to see Ceballos to play against the pressing of City. It's something I was looking forward to, so I was quite disappointed when I didn't see him in the lineup because he's got that flair, he plays with that risk. In the last few games where he's actually going past the press, he's beating the press and making things happen. So I was actually disappointed with that decision. And Arsenal's slow start to both halves was because of the same reason. They weren't pressing, they weren't closing down. And
I feel like all the players who started aren't very press resistant. We have press resistant players on the bench in the start of this game, and he chose to start Rob Holding, who isn't press resistant. Mari hasn't played in a while. Bellerin is not press resistant. El Neni can be, but he likes to pass it backwards. Xhaka isn't press resistant. And that's the team he chose to start. So
yeah, and also that's the other thing. I was surprised with Smith Rowe not starting, because he's actually quite good at posting up and turning on the ball. And he's very good at comfortable at taking the ball in tight spaces because he likes playing back towards goal so much.
But that was based off of him playing on Thursday. What I found weird is if you're starting Pepe for Smith Rowe, fair enough. But when Pepe's been playing well, he's been playing on the left wing. So it was weird to see him start on the right wing and have Saka on the left. That was weird.
I mean, towards the end of the first half, Arsenal kind of did gain a bit of control and were looking a bit threatening. Do you think they probably need to be a bit more braver in terms of their attacking, or were they still kind of had that fear in their mind that the 3-0 previously that has happened? So do you think that's why they didn't fully commit to it? Adil?
Yeah, I think City was, the thing is, City were really good. I think the last 15 minutes of the first half, Arsenal came into it because they were more braver. Because Arsenal gave City way too much respect at the beginning of the game. You're at home, and it seems like this is how Arsenal operate, which is they wait for the opposition to tire and then they go for it. That's why I said previously they're a team that always seems to attack second half, and first half they kind of play balanced and safe. So I think towards the end of the first half and the last 20 minutes of the second half, they started to push and take risks. But you're at home. I just don't think you should be giving City that much respect, because as you saw, I mean, when they did go at City, there were opportunities there for them. The final ball wasn't good enough.
Yeah, I think that's where we lacked.
And I feel like Saka looked fatigued today, and that really cost them, because he's been the difference maker. And when the ball came to him, he actually gave it away quite cheaply or just stumbled on it. And you could tell he looked tired. So that not having the freshness in Saka did definitely affect Arsenal's performance. But yeah, just it took them half an hour in each half before they realized to get anything out of the game, you got to make forward runs. And before that, it's very static. The movement is very static. There's no one.
That's because of the players they picked. Adil, don't you think that's because of the players they picked? They're not really players that run off the ball. Pretty much all of them like the ball to feet, really.
Yeah. I mean, Tierney is the only guy who's making runs, and that's why whenever he did, he caused City problems. There wasn't enough players.
Sorry?
It just ended up being just a terrible final ball for most of the game, because I feel like City played football the first 25, 30 minutes, and that was it. Even in the second half, they weren't that good going
forward. First 5 minutes, you could say. First 5 minutes, they went for it.
And then they just sort of just sat back and said, well, we know we're strong defensively, so it's up to you to break us down. And Arsenal huffed and puffed. They got into good positions, but the final ball was always lacking. So nothing was really going to.
Has this been a problem with Arsenal for the whole season?
It has until recently. I think recently it's been a lot better. So I would have expected more in terms of chance creation, because for this game, I really only remember one or two. Because even Odegaard didn't really see much of him today. But that's because El Neni doesn't play forward. So he had to keep coming deep to even get hold of the ball, which defeats the purpose of him playing in the first place.
I think Fernandinho marked him out the game as well a few times when he did get Fernandinho snapped in, intercepted. I think, but the thing is telegraphed, because like you said, the rotations and the movement ain't there. They're all playing back towards goal, wanting the ball to feet. So it becomes easier to read the play and the patterns. The other problem with Arsenal is whenever they did get the ball in the box, they hardly had anyone in the box. Everyone's on the edge. Everyone's on the edge of the box.
It's because all those people on the edge had to go deep to go get the ball in the first place. They're
And
tired. They can't make
do
it
you
up and
think
down the pitch.
Tactically, Arteta got it wrong.
I think selection-wise, he got it wrong. Tactically, was fine. It's the selection that was the issue.
I just think I think City, that first 25 minutes from City was really good. You know, they really showed their level. They could have been out of sight. They had another 2-3 gilded chances in that first 15-minute spell. I just think that looking at the circumstances, having to rotate players, the fatigue, you know, Aubameyang looks tired, Saka looks tired. You know, when key players are looking tired, it's just tough for Arsenal to expect anything more. And even though it was an encouraging performance, because it could have, you know, the scoreline could have been a lot worse, and to come away with it 1-0, they're going to take away some positives from that. Yeah, I think it was just too much to expect with the Europa League games and the build-up of fatigue. And that's why I was saying I still think it's going to be hard for Arsenal to make up the space because of the amount of games they're having to play. They have to prioritize the Europa Cup. Even this now, you look at, they got a tough fixture list coming up, but they're going to have to play a strong lineup on Thursday or Wednesday, whenever they are playing again, because it's the tie is still in the balance. So it's tough.
I don't think they're that good. Who are we playing? Is it Benfica?
Benfica are terrible.
They're not. They are.
Rangers outplayed them twice. Should have beaten them twice. So
that's my point. These are the teams. Where are they in their league? Fourth, aren't they?
Clearly, it shows then we're not up to the standard that we think we are, as in Arsenal.
Who thinks Arsenal are where they are? People, where Arsenal are is where they're supposed to be. There's no hang up on that. Arsenal are where they're supposed to be.
Mm-hmm.
But the difference between English teams and some other European teams is enough, because you'd get teams like Newcastle giving Benfica a good game. They won't get smashed. So Arsenal should be beating them regardless of who they've got on the pitch.
But I think the squad management is the issue, because there's players who aren't confident. Like you saw today, Pepe was a shadow of the player.
Because he's been dragged out. I said this in one of the previous pods. I said so.
But this is a constant issue. Why he's doing Arteta really with regards to Pepe and other players within the team.
But I think that was tactical. He moved Saka there because he was worried about Cancelo. He wanted a hard worker tracking back, and Saka did do that job. But I think he can't be too harsh. I mean, City played really well, and the difference is now they're good at defending individually. I mean, you saw every time there was a promising attack, the City defenders snuffed it out. They done good defending. They stopped it. Even Zinchenko surprised me. He was clearing headers in the back post, coming in, covering. These are mistakes that previously City would always give up chances, and now they're not. So I just think today was maybe a game too far, but it's still positives and promising. The reaction and the fact that they did try and push and get something out, and they showed some intent. It was just I felt they didn't have to waste half an hour of each half before they had the belief and the confidence to have a go at City.
I mean, with regards to City, really, 18 games unbeaten. Where would you rank them, Famik, with regards to the greatest teams in the Premier League? Do
What,
they be in the same line, or I mean, what do you think?
This current Man City.
This current Man City, yes.
Well, it's 18 wins in a row, not 18 games unbeaten.
Sorry,
18 wins in a
row. Sorry.
Well, they're not Pep's best Man City, so I don't think they're better than the Liverpool team that won the league last year either. I wouldn't rate them very highly if I'm being honest. You can't base it off because we expect them to win the league, but they started off poorly. And you also got to remember that it's like putting Leicester in the teams of the top teams of Premier League all time. This is just a weird season. Nobody is being consistent. This is the longest sustained consistency of the league this season, and it's Man City. They're not playing amazing football. They're just very good defensively, and then they have a very good attack.
I personally think City are playing really good football. You know, the intelligence in everything they're doing is. I mean, today I thought it was really intelligent because first half they attacked in the same way they normally do with the fullbacks coming into central midfield, and they kept the wingers out wide. And I think second half, I think because they recognised Arsenal getting to grips with it, they completely went the other way. They kept the fullbacks out wide, and Bernardo sat in alongside Fernandinho instead of joining in the attack. So what happened was suddenly you got Cancelo now doing overlaps and creating problems out wide, and Zinchenko creating problems out wide. That's why he had a shot in the first couple of minutes after half time, right on the edge of the box. So I think this City team is really intelligent, and it's got two distinct different styles in which they're playing. And I think a lot of teams are going to struggle to beat it. You have to remember they're scoring and they're winning without a proper striker.
Yeah, but
and you have to have a lot of intelligence to know when to make the run, when to play it. I think it's really clever the way they're playing, and it is high level football.
Okay, but this City team versus Man United's Rooney, Tevez, Ronaldo team, who's winning that game?
I would say the United team because they're a counter-attacking team.
Chelsea's, is it 03-04 team?
04-05, I think.
Is it 04-05?
I'm not arguing that this City team is one of the greatest. Don't get me wrong.
They're just.
But I do think
win the league in a season that has a lot of teams who are inconsistent. That's what it is.
But I just think, look, they were at a building phase at the start of the season, and it took them that much time to figure out a system and for the players to understand the system of playing with that and that striker. Even the games that they were drawing or losing close games, it wasn't because they were outplayed. It's because they couldn't finish chances, and they couldn't create clear-cut chances from the domination they had. And I think it's just the natural evolution of the team that it's taken this long for them to master the timings of the run, how to attack the space left by, like today, the way Sterling comes in, De Bruyne comes out. They've mastered it now, and now you're starting to see the fruits of what they're trying to do earlier on in the season. But
so would you say the start of the season was because they didn't have a preseason? Would you say that was the reason for them starting slow? Because obviously those things would have been ironed out during the preseason.
I think the better teams, the better managers utilize preseason more. I mean, Klopp is renowned for doing a lot of his base work during preseason, and I think Pep is the same. So undoubtedly, but I think a lot that's every team. All right, City had a week less, and Man United had a week less, but I think that's every team. I think it's more just the adjustment of starting the season without the strikers.
Was Gabriel Jesus injured at the start of the season?
He was a bit on and off. I think he missed a couple of months here and there.
He's just not that good. That's all it is. Man City play the same way. All they've done is changed one player because their fullbacks have always been inverted. They tend to always go into centre midfield. It's just that Cancelo's doing it better than Kyle Walker was doing it, so it's being highlighted more. You've got Gundogan, who, for whatever reason, managers have been playing him as a sit-in midfielder when he's never been that. He is a late runner into the box. He's been given the license to do that this season. He's thriving.
But I think even now when we see Gabriel Jesus come on, he plays more like a false nine now anyway. So even when he is on, it's actually the same system. He's not playing as a striker. He's playing that Firmino style, which is draw the centre backs to follow him, and the other players attack the space. So I think it just took a bit of time for them to master that system, and now they refined, and you see it. I mean, the first 15 minutes, about 4 times they attacked the space. De Bruyne left, and there's different players each time. Once it was Cancelo, once it was Mahrez, another 2 times it was Sterling. So I just think they've just really evolved as a team in that system. And it's interesting to see that in the second half they changed it. And I think that's what Arsenal had trouble with at the start of the second half, was to get used to the slight change. And that shows Pep was conscious of Arteta knowing a lot of information on City and decided to change at halftime, even though they're winning 1-0.
Famik, do you think Arsenal kind of closed the gap on the top team, or do you think there's still a huge way to go with regards
on the top team is in Man City?
On the top teams in terms of Man City, say for instance, the Manchester United, Chelsea, Liverpool. They're all up there.
Arsenal have closed the gap in terms of making it a little bit more of a competition, but you wouldn't say that they are in a position to actually challenge to be one of the top teams again. Arsenal are still very much trying to work their way back into being a team where you say, okay, we're playing Arsenal now. Let's actually try and let's make tactics for them, because what tends to happen is teams play Arsenal. They don't change the way of their style of play, because they know that they'll just overpower Arsenal with their style of football. Whereas previously, teams will come to Arsenal and be like, okay, they're going to have most of the ball. They're going to create loads of chances. All we need to do is sit in, be strong, and we get them on the counter-attack. So Arsenal still have a long way to go from there. But what they're doing now is Arsenal are like, they're trying to build a strong base and then start building attacking wise. But obviously, it's difficult to build a strong base with certain defenders in your team.
Do you want to draw them out?
I don't know them. I can't. They know who they are. Holding, main one. David Luiz, another one.
So Adi, do you agree with Pep's point in terms of Pep said in the interview that apparently Arsenal are a few signings away from being title challenging, etc. Do you agree with that point?
I think it's I understand what he's trying to say, but I do think it's more than a few signings, because when you look at it, the players Famix just mentioned, they're the players that Arteta is trying to rebuild with, and they're not good enough.
Signings though, how many signings is a few?
I actually think it's about 5, 6, 7. I think it needs a significant overhaul.
What I mean is,
other than Tierney, Saka, and Aubameyang, Bellerin on his days very good. I don't think anyone else is top quarter. At Partey when he gets good, Gabriel, but the rest are just.
What I mean is, if someone says a few, what's that? How many signings is a few? 3?
Normally it's about 3 or 4.
3 signings will change Arsenal's team. That's for sure. 3 signings and proper selections.
I mean, three. You say 3 signings. Which 3? I mean, where do you think they need to change?
Arsenal get a better right back. Then their back four is a good right back, Tierney, Gabriel, and whoever. David Luiz can be okay. Rob Holding will be okay if his right back was better. You've got Leno, we've got Partey. Xhaka's playing okay, but then you sign a better midfielder than Xhaka. That's the second signing. Then you've got Aubameyang on one side, up front, sorry. You got Saka on the right, and you get a left winger. That's 3 signings. That team will challenge. They won't win the league, but they'll definitely challenge.
So you're happy with Smith Rowe and Odegaard as your 10s?
Yeah.
Yeah. Nah, I'll be honest. I don't see it. I think it's a lot more than three.
Smith Rowe and Odegaard as 10s are enough for you to challenge. Not enough for you to win the league, but definitely enough for you to challenge. Because Everton are challenging at the minute, right?
I mean
how many of their players are quality? But how many of their players are quality?
I think what you have to factor in is Everton are seen as a big team, so teams open up against them, and they can counterattack and use the qualities of the players that they have. So they're not under that pressure to dominate a game, and to and teams are set up where you have to break them down. The other factor is they're not in Europe, so they're just more fresh. They can push. They can play more physical.
I'm saying. I'm talking in terms of the Premier League only. Free signings.
Yeah, I think it affects the amount. So a part of Everton's and West Ham's, part of the reason they are so high up is because they're benefited from not having the extra games in such a tight
West Ham. West Ham are awful.
But they're still higher up the table simply because of the fact they're fresher. They're able to utilize that extra freshness to be higher up the league. Now, I think with Arsenal, it's totally different. I mean, that attack doesn't look very good. It wasn't even, I didn't think it was great even last season. A lot of it was similar to this season, which is crosses, and you're relying on Aubameyang's instincts rather than creating real good clear-cut chances. A lot of it was long balls and crosses.
Last season and this season is we are definitely creating more chances now, because if you look at the Benfica game, we created a lot of chances. Aubameyang just missed a lot of chances, whereas at the start of the season we weren't creating anything. So if you sign a good midfielder, then you have Partey, the good midfielder, and Smith Rowe or Odegaard. Smith Rowe and Odegaard get the ball more often. That's a start, because Odegaard is good when he has the ball. He's not so good when he doesn't have it. But he doesn't get the ball because we can't get the ball to him. Another good midfielder will get the ball to him. Now we're in attacking positions. You've got another good left winger. That's the third signing. A centre midfield and a good left winger.
But in terms of your style of play to break down teams, it is still get the ball out wide and cross the ball. The better defenses and the better teams with the better defenders will find that easy to defend against. Just like today, the cross the ball, Zinchenko headers it, Diaz headers it, Stones headers it.
But
there's no real intricacy in the play.
That's what I mean. You have a good one-on-one winger that crossing stops because your winger is going to beat his man rather than just cross it. Your centre midfield will beat his man rather than worry about losing the ball and having to track back as Xhaka does.
I think the type of players you're talking about, Famik, Arsenal can't afford. I'll be honest.
But this is what I
spent 60 or 70 mil on Pepe.
Oh yeah, of course.
But
we're not talking like obviously unrealistic.
There ain't many wingers that can beat their man and get a quality crossing out there. There ain't. Unrealistic
signing. Arsenal get Grealish. Yeah, it's unrealistic signing. But that's one signing that will change the team. So saying there are a couple of signings away is technically right. It's just these signings that we are away aren't realistic signings.
But you're saying that, but I don't think it's the same Grealish when he's at Arsenal. And if Grealish goes to a bigger club, he's not going to be the same player because it's not everything ain't going to go to him. Like
no, but he will still be his man the same way.
Is Arteta the type of manager that is going to let Grealish have creative freedom? He isn't, because he's shown it. He's managed to stunt the natural abilities of Pepe, Willian.
Don't mention Willian.
That
isn't Arteta.
Willian is part of Arteta's rebuild. That was his go-to signing to fix the attack. Willian was your Grealish this summer. That's the fact.
Do you know what?
pulled out the money, given him a big salary.
I will tell you
Take away
one
from
signing
Chelsea.
that will change Arsenal. If
All right.
Arsenal sign
Let's
Bruno
end on that.
Fernandes,
Let's end on that. What's
It'll
that
change.
one signing? And let's kind of finish on that. Really,
Bruno Fernandes is that one signing. Arsenal sign Bruno Fernandes, he'll change it all. 15 goals, 11 assists. I don't even know why Man United fans complain about him. I don't get it. Amazing
right.
football.
Thank you, Fabrik. Thank you, Adil, for your very interesting insight into the Arsenal Man City game and the points that have come up from today. And I'll see you soon, hopefully. So thank you both. See you soon.